First, let me say what it is a pleasure to be here at your convention, of course, at this particular moment in the history of this province. As I was coming here yesterday from Toronto at another event, I was thinking for the last number of days as I'm trying to come out here, I had a speech all written that I was going to talk to you all about the federal election, and in my typical fashion last night, I decided to throw it away. And there's a reason for that. But before I get into that, I really want to, of course, start by acknowledging some fundamental truths and, of course, in regard to the work that goes on in this federation and this province. I know the challenges that you have faced from time to time, dealing, of course, with a government that's been deaf to the issues of workers in this province. But without any hesitation, as I read on a consistent basis, the voice of this federation has been heard constantly because your president, Brother Gil McGowan, consistently get the message out about what's going on in this province on behalf of workers. I want to thank him tremendously for the work he does on your behalf across this province. There's an old saying, we may be small, but we're absolutely mighty. We're not going to shut up simply because the government does not listen. But I'm hoping as a result of what's happening here in the province, we'll have a government that's going to listen to working people in this province for a change. And that's what we need. So, sisters and brothers, I want to thank all of you for the great work you do, the affiliates, the activists in this room here today. And I came here, of course, more importantly, of course, to engage with you, to challenge you, of course, to encourage you. Because I think we're going to see a titanic shift that's going to happen in this province, and I can't tell you what that means for our country at this point in time. To have that happen, of course, right in Stephen Harper's backyard, I can tell you, give me a really warm feeling because, you know, Mr. Harper has been tormenting us for the last 9 years in our country, and more importantly, it'll be nice to torment him right here in his own province of Alberta. So it's good to be here, sisters and brothers. Of course, I'll take a few minutes just to talk a little bit about, of course, the upcoming federal election, which will be in October of this year. We've been doing everything, of course, to prepare for that reality, not simply doing one thing, but doing as many things as we can. And, of course, all of your efforts and your involvement in that election when it comes is going to be absolutely critical. I also want to bring you greetings on behalf of my colleagues, Sister Barb Byers, Sister Mary Clark Walker, and, of course, Brother Donald LaFleur. Also, I want to recognize our Prairie Director, Darla Laird, who's a new director in the region. And of course, you're one of your own, Corey Longo, of course, your Alberta rep who serve you on a day-to-day basis in this province. You know, as I sit and watch from a distance here from Ottawa what's going on in this province, I can't tell you how excited we are because fundamentally, it's about time. After 45 years of the Conservative dynasty in this province, about time you see a shift. And that shift is absolutely fundamental to the interests of working people in this province. It's critical, I think, sisters and brothers, the work that you have to do, of course, to ensure on Election Day and May 6th that we bring home, of course, the victory that we deserve in this province. When I look at what your Premier has just proposed in his most recent budget, it's absolutely astounding for a province, one of the richest in this country, to simply announce you're going to cut $1 billion out of the healthcare system and somehow to get us to believe that's the only solution the government could find in regards to our healthcare system. Alberta, with the wealth that's in this province, should have the best healthcare system in the country. Because you deserve it, and the working people of this province deserve the best healthcare system, and more importantly, you can afford the best healthcare system here. Those who are already making too much need to pay their fair share, and by God, we should hold their feet to the fire. How is it that the Premier can tell families and young kids that they're going to bear the brunt of the austerity measures that he is proposing? The future of this province, the young people who we want to give the best education, make sure they have the tools in the classroom, they're going to be faced with the cuts. Because the Premier don't have the courage to tell his Bay Street friends in the corporation they need to pay a little bit more. When you look at how they squandered the natural resources of this province for the last 45 years, I know the Alberta people are waking up in this province and recognizing we can do better and we must do better. And we as a movement must ensure that every bit of our effort over the number of weeks that is left and days that's left, we do everything to talk to our friends, to our neighbors, to our co-workers, because that's how we're going to win this campaign, sisters and brothers. It is critical that this is the moment for us to reinforce what our values are. We want a government that sits in the legislature and listens to the concerns of working people. Because if you didn't have a labor movement in this province, think how worse off workers would be in this province. Because of your advocacy and your consistent determination to fight and to push to improve the lives of working people, so many workers are doing much better in this province. But think of all of those who don't have the opportunity to be represented by the labor movement. You know, Jim Prentice had a choice when he was writing his budget. He could have simply said, yes, we're facing some shortfall in our revenue, but we're not going to punish the working people in this province. We're going to ask those who have been making huge profits over the years for them to step up to the plate and do their fair share. But rather than that, he shifted. But this has been consistent with conservative values throughout this country. It's to blame working people and to shift the blame to somebody else, to tell us we have got to make the sacrifices. We're 45 years working people have been making sacrifices in this province. It's about time we said, hell no, we can do better. The attack on public sector workers, I listened and watched the Premier the last couple of days saying, well, public sector workers should not expect a raise. Well, we didn't create the crisis, and we shouldn't have to pay for it. How is it that we can't add value to our own natural resources in this province? At some point, it will run out. The Norwegians have learned very clearly that this is the resource that belongs to the people, and we need to take as much care as we can to ensure we create as much jobs as we can. We put aside as much revenue as we can, because one day will come when that resource is no longer there. For decades, they've had 4.5 decades to manage this province. And they'll tell us, well, sorry, we screwed up. Give us another chance and we'll do better. Well, for 45 years, they've been screwing up. We don't need to give them another chance. What we need to do is to kick their ass out of office and elect an NDP government. Sisters and brothers, you know what I'm saying, and you know what I'm talking about. Because this is a moment, of course, when the hard work will begin. I know for some of you in the audience, you're saying, Hassan, I've never canvassed before. I've never knocked on a door. I don't know how to do those kinds of things. Well, let me tell you this very simply. First of all, when you knock on a door and somebody says something rude, thank you very much. Move on to the next door. Secondly, it's simply a question of giving some of your time. It may be an hour, it may be a day, it may be a weekend, doesn't matter. But every bit of it that you give will make a difference. Because this is the moment when it matters. If we can get our people out to start doing the hard work, to reinforce what is important about this campaign. As New Democrats, we have values, and we have priorities. And if you give us a chance to govern this province, we can make a difference. We can show what that difference is, because our priority will not be to attack the seniors in this province. Our priority would not be to attack, the education system for the young people who we want to shape their minds so they can become the future of this province. You give us a chance, yes, we will tell the oil companies, you need to refine the product in our province so we can create the jobs and create taxes that will pay for the services in our province. And to tell public sector workers they're there every single day providing the service to bring equality to this province. It's not their fault. That we're going to work with them to ensure we can deliver the best public service in this province. And to say to the private sector in this province also, we're going to work with you to ensure, of course, workers are protected when they go to work, to ensure if we have the best health and safety laws in this province, to ensure the workers not going to be killed, and the employers will have health and safety committee to ensure the workers are protected when they go to work every single day in this province. Sisters and brothers, I could go on at length, but I'm not going to. But today you're going to hear, of course, from your leader, our leader in this province, as she will come to speak to you. I was thinking of course, the challenges, of course, that she is faced with right now. At some point, they're going to come after her. You know, Rachel didn't leave this province to go to Bay Street to earn her millions. She was here during the tough times, rolling up her sleeve and working hard to ensure that Albertans know they had a voice in the legislature. That's the difference between her values and the other guy who wants to keep his job. And we need to tell that to our members and her family, because they need to understand that she's got roots in this province and she's committed to this province. But it's critical to know the work that you are doing here. And if we're going to defeat Stephen Harper, it's going to start right here in Alberta. Because the work that you're going to do in this provincial election will be a shot in the arm for our activists and our movement right across this country. You can elect an NDP government and put them in the legislature. Our activists across this country are 3.3 million members, going to wake up believing if they can do it in Alberta, we can do it right across this country. I can't tell you how important that is for the next federal election. So I want to conclude. I don't want to take too much of your time, sisters and brothers. This election is really about whether or not we can elect a government that represent our values, values of working people. That if you work hard, at the end of the day, you should be rewarded. You should be respected, and you should be treated fairly. Can we build hope in this province that we can do better? Can we do better? I think all of you know we can do better in this province. It's a question of priority and to have the leadership. And I know in Rachel Notley, you will conclude that. Can we have a government to sit in the legislature and say, hey, we're not going to cut $1 billion in healthcare. We're going to find the money. Because if the corporations have been making profits in this province for so long, by God, they'll pay that extra $1 billion so we can deliver the best healthcare this province can have at the end of the day. And we can rebuild our education system where teachers are valued and give them the tools. Why is it one of the richest provinces in our country, kids go to school in the morning hungry because their parents don't have enough? That is unacceptable. That is unacceptable in my view. And why is it that we can't add value to our resources? You think the corporation is going to pack up and move if we insist they have to refine the product here? They ain't going to leave. But somebody's got to lead. And I know Rachel will lead. So I want to conclude to say to all of you, this is, of course, an exciting time. And I know you're going to leave here in a couple of days as you're going to go home on tomorrow, right? Yeah, tomorrow? Yes, tomorrow. You're leaving tomorrow to go back? Sunday? Sunday, okay. One more day. So you're going to leave here on Sunday. I know some may think that there's somebody else doing that work out there. You know, you're going to go back and says, yeah, there's somebody knocking on doors. That somebody is you. You're going to think there's somebody who's going to come put the sign up because you're calling and nobody answers the phone in the campaign office because there's nobody there. That's you. Are you going to be there on election day to say, I'm going to be there to pull the votes? That's you. And you're going to find another person to help make that work happen. That's you. There's no imaginary group coming to help. It's you. It's the fellow sisters in the workplace that you need to convince and say, hey, come, let's go out and do this for a couple of hours, and maybe we'll go for a drink after or whatever the case may be, or coffee. But it's critical that you take some ownership to this because you've waited for decades. You've come to this convention. I've been here many times before, but all the wonderful resolutions you have passed about things you want to see happen. You're on the cusp of making that possible by electing a government that would represent your values, that would act on those resolutions and those convention documents that you've passed so many times here. Let's make this dream come true. It is time for a change, and we can do better by electing a new Democrat government and ensure they're in the legislature to ensure that working people have advocates that's going to stand up and fight for them, and a leader who are one of us, who share our ideas, who believe in our movement, and more importantly, will do everything she can to grow our movement and to support our movement, not to attack our movement. So let me conclude, sisters, brothers, you do that. The next time I come back here, of course, will be to celebrate with you, and more importantly, to ask your help to ensure we can defeat Stephen Harper in October of 2015. Because I want to say to all of you, I travel this country every single day to meet with our members. There's never been a prime minister more determined to change the face of this country than Stephen Harper. For the 9 years he's been in office, we don't recognize the country we live in today. He's done everything to polarize it from regions to region, even exploit the deaths of 2 of our brave soldiers and to use it now to cast doubts about other citizens and people like me with names like me. And I said publicly, not Stephen Harper nor any politicians will demonize me and make me a criminal in my own country just because I happen to have a Muslim name. I know the values of our country. I know the caring of our country. And I know the commitment of our country. It was a question of choice. We became a caring nation. A country that everybody aspired to, want to come to, because it's a great place to be. What our Prime Minister have done over the last 9 years has been an affront to our values, to our dignity, and to what has built this country. We've got a moment to take it back in October. But that journey starts right here, and it starts on May 6th by you electing as many do Democrat in the legislature. We send a clear message to Stephen Harper. We're done. We're going to fight because this country, of course, deserves better leadership. Leadership, of course, to recognize the best of us, that brings us together, that united from coast to coast. Alberta is part of our heritage and our country. And like you, like me, I recognize this when I travel. We are all the same. I am you and you are me. I'm your president. I wasn't born here. I came here out of choice. But I'm very determined, as a Canadian who committed and passionate about this country, that we're going to work to make it even better, because we care about our country. As working people, we represent 3.3 million members in your Congress. If every one of us do one little bit, we can win this fight. We have to win this fight, because the next generation deserve an even better country to live in, because their parents who have fought for us to have what we have today, we need to have that fight one more time so they can have a better future. Thank you so much. Have a great convention. Look forward to seeing you.